That's my wife Heather and our boat Destiny. After years of planning, we retired from our jobs, sold everything, and moved aboard our boat to explore this world and the people living in it. We're just getting started, and we invite you to join us as we travel by sea to distant lands where we'll experience new cultures, food, and sea life. Come aboard and let's go for a sail. After a few days at an anchorage on the west side of Highbourne Key, we pulled the anchor and set sail for Eleuthera. We were in a race to beat a strong weather front coming down from the north that would produce strong winds and waves that Destiny wouldn't be protected from. We crossed Exuma Sound with depths close to a mile deep and slipped into Rock Sound Harbor not too far from the city's government dock. Up in Rock Sound Harbor here at Eleuthera Island. We heard a rumor that there's a pirate cave. We're going to go see if we can find it.
Any pirate treasure, but we did find an amazingly beautiful cave. So when we came up to the dinghy dock, the tide was low. We went and did our exploring, came back, hoping the tide would be higher, but it is even lower, so it's like 3 inches under our pontoons. Not good. All the other boats are pretty grounded.
The next day, we took the dinghy out to do a little exploring around the entrance point to Rock Sound Harbor. This little spit of land is called Sound Point, and the rocks at the end of it are called Ducey Rocks.
day, and we are doing something we've never done on Christmas before. We are fishing. Today is probably one of the days that we are going to regret a decision that we made as far as weather and travel. Finally, after about 10 days in Rock Sound, we've pulled the anchor and are headed back to the Exumas. We'd wanted to go to Cat Island to the south, but the winds aren't cooperating. Instead of one long day, we decided to break it up into 2 days, so we're headed to a more southern anchorage in Eleuthera now. Then it will be an easier jump across the Exuma Sound tomorrow. Here we are, about an hour away from where we started our journey yesterday. But we learned some lessons.
So here's what we were doing. We were anchored in Rock Sound Harbor on Eleuthera, and we knew that we wanted to travel back to the Exumas. We were going to go back to Highborn Key, and that trip was going to take us about eight and a half hours. So what we figured we would do is take the first day and leave Rock Sound Harbor and head to the other side of Eleuthera, which would take us about 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours to get there. But that would take several hours off of our trip to Highborn Key the next day. So we left Rock Sound Harbor and we traveled about 23 miles to get to this next anchorage. The winds were strong. The winds were 25 to 30 knots out of the east. And so in this new anchorage that we were going to go to, we thought we would be protected from east winds. And the wind and waves were wrapping around the end of that, changing directions, and it was too rough. You know, the wind doesn't matter, but the seas do matter. It was too rough to anchor in that anchorage. So we ended up coming almost all the way back to Rock Sound Harbor. It's December 30th. We just pulled up the anchor. It's about 6:30 in the morning. We pulled up the anchor from Eleuthera. Our anchorage here. We're going to cross the Exuma Sound and head for Highborn Key.
About halfway back to the Exumas. We finally got a perfect day. We got blue skies. We've got the perfect winds for sailing. We're making 7 to 8 knots with one reef in the sail. And we got the fishing lines out. We're in about 5,000 feet of water, hoping for some tuna, but nothing yet. Really need Mark and Nick back on the boat because we were reeling them in left and right when they were part of the crew. Anyway, maybe we'll get lucky later.
So we made it across Exuma Sound to the Highborn Cut and then made our way down to Norman Key, where we spent the next day exploring. After spending a night anchored in the lee of Norman's Key, we got up the next morning, jumped into the Little D, our dinghy, and explored the southern cove. It's hard to imagine that this beautiful key was once off limits for cruisers, as it was the headquarters to Carlos Letter's drug smuggling operation. And of course, we spent a bit of time admiring the underwater world.